Two companies now define the most watched go-to-market experiment in business history: ChatGPT and Claude, OpenAI and Anthropic. Together, they went from under $8 billion in annualized revenue at the start of 2025 to a combined $55 billion by April 2026. Same market, same moment, and almost exactly opposite ways of selling. OpenAI sells after adoption. Anthropic sells before it. Both have worked at a scale no one has seen this fast. And the reason why tells you more about the next 5 years of building revenue than any model benchmark will. Start with OpenAI. This is product-led growth at a scale B2B has never seen. Over 900 million people use ChatGPT every week. That consumer flywheel turns free trials into plus subscribers into team seats, and team seats into enterprise contracts. The sales team's job is to meet demand the product already created. The advantages are hard to copy. Inbound pipeline is almost free. The brand defines the category. Every "look what ChatGPT did" clip online is top of funnel that money can't buy. The trade-off is structural. Consumer subscriptions subsidize compute more than they justify it. So, through 2026, OpenAI has deliberately leaned into enterprise, now around 40% of revenue, up from roughly 30% a year earlier. That's not emotion failing, it's emotion maturing. Now, Anthropic. It built its engine the way classic enterprise software does, but faster. Target accounts, paid pilots, multi-year contracts, AWS and Google Cloud as distribution. No consumer phase to speak of. The strengths are the ones every operator recognizes: high contract values, signed multi-year commitments, predictable expansion, and a trust posture. Constitutional AI, published safety research, healthcare-ready offerings. That becomes a procurement asset in regulated industries. For the first 2 years, the slow enterprise cycle looked like a disadvantage. By early 2026, it looked like compounding. Anthropic's annualized revenue passed $30 billion in April, with roughly 80% from business customers. More than 1,000 enterprises now spend over $1 million a year on Claude. 8 of the Fortune 10 are customers. Put them side by side, and the contrast is clean. OpenAI's entry point is free users and developers. Anthropic's is enterprise buyers. OpenAI runs product-led growth with sales assist. Anthropic runs sales-led with account-based marketing. OpenAI's pipeline comes from product usage. Anthropic's from targeted outbound. OpenAI's deals start small and expand. Anthropic's are large from day one. For OpenAI, sales converts and expands. For Anthropic, sales creates and closes. One motion captures demand, the other manufactures it. Both end up at tens of billions in revenue. Underneath the motions are 2 different business models. OpenAI is building a portfolio, 4 revenue lines expanding breadth first: consumer subscriptions, enterprise software, API usage, and new bets like advertising and agents. Around $25 billion in annualized revenue, with about $10 billion from enterprise alone. Anthropic is building a wedge, 3 deeply integrated streams, all pointing at the same enterprise buyer. API consumption, large multi-year contracts, and coding-heavy workloads through Claude Code. Around $30 billion run rate, roughly 80% enterprise. One is a portfolio of bets. The other is a spear aimed at one buyer. Same market, completely different architecture. 4 contrasts explain almost every downstream decision each company makes. Go-to-market. OpenAI is bottom-up, consumer first. Anthropic is top-down, enterprise first. Monetization. OpenAI is broad but diluted, a huge base at lower revenue per account. Anthropic is fewer customers, far higher spend. Products philosophy. OpenAI is AI for everyone, horizontal reach. Anthropic is AI for critical workflows, deep and defensible. Growth driver. OpenAI compounds through distribution breadth. Anthropic compounds through contract density. Read them together and you stop seeing two AI companies. You see two B2B archetypes, the horizontal platform and the vertical wedge.
So which motion is right?
The honest answer? Both were, for different windows of the same market. Product-led growth was the correct motion for 2022 to 2024. That was the discovery phase. Buyers didn't know what they wanted, budgets were experimental, and viral adoption was the fastest route to legitimacy. Selling after adoption made sense, because adoption was the thing to prove. Enterprise first is the correct motion for 2025 to 2026, the deployment phase. The same buyers now want re-architecture, multi-year commitments, and vendor accountability. A procurement committee can't viral adopt its way into a seven-figure contract. The market shifted from experimentation to deployment, and the motion that fit happened to be the one Anthropic was already running. Now both are converging toward multi-motion. By 2027, each will run the other's playbook in parallel. 5 lessons travel from this, drawn from both playbooks. 1. Motion follows the buyer, not your preference. Developers want to try before they commit. Procurement has to be sold before adoption. Most go-to-market failure is a mismatch between the two. 2. Trust is a sales asset, not a branding asset. Every certification and safety paper becomes a line item in a procurement review later. Treat your trust artifacts as part of the revenue stack. 3. Revenue per unit of cost is the real long-term metric. The question is no longer, how big is my pipeline, but how much revenue per dollar of acquisition and delivery cost. 4. The motion that wins a phase rarely wins the next one. Reassess your motion at every revenue inflection. 5. Convergence is inevitable. Architect for multi-motion from day one, even if you switch them on one at a time. Here's the takeaway. OpenAI and Anthropic aren't a story of one company beating another. They're proof that radically different go-to-market motions can both be correct, at different moments, for different buyers, with different constraints. The mistake is to look at the 2026 numbers and crown a winner. The lesson is to understand why each worked when it did, and to ask the same of your own business. Which phase of the market are you in? Which buyer actually signs your contracts? Which motion fits the capital you have, not the one you wish you had? Get those answers right, and the motion almost builds itself. This was a GTM bench review briefing. The full issue is linked below, and there's a new one every Friday. I'll see you in the next one.